Welcome back. Now, the April inflation figure released by the National Bureau of Statistics on Tuesday indicates that food inflation has continued to rise despite the slowing headline inflation. So what is driving this food prices? I have here with me senior investment analyst at Financial Derivatives Company, Opeyemi Oguntade. Thank you very much, Opeyemi, for joining us on the program. So tell me, the inflation figure released by the MBS on Tuesday, of course, showed a slow decline on inflation figure, but we saw food prices rising. So what's driving food prices high this time?
Okay, so the inflation data released, the report really showed that food inflation increased from 18.44% to 19.3%. And looking at all the parameters that would affect food prices, so your logistics cost, as well as foreign exchange liquidity, because we know some of the food items we consume here in Nigeria are imported. Those two parameters have improved over the month. We've seen that national average diesel price declined month on month. We've also seen that forex liquidity in the market has improved significantly. So one wonders, okay, so why are food prices going up? But looking further into the food index, we see that 25%, about a quarter of the food index is allocated to imported food items. So about the quarter, that's 75%, is domestic food prices. And what we've seen tracking food prices is that prices have been increasing. And looking at the dynamics, the first thing we notice is that, okay, this is the planting season. So typically some food items or some commodities tend to become scarce. And in addition to that, there's a bit of an issue now going towards Gombe State. We're seeing that Tupsa Absoluta is back, and it's affecting crop production in that area. So this factors taken together, the seasonal factors, the crop diseases that we're seeing in the northern part of Nigeria, they're affecting food prices, and that's why we're seeing food prices increasing.
Now, just before we go to those crop diseases, looking at the food prices movement for this week from the slide you sent in, it shows that prices, most of those prices remain unchanged.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so this week we haven't seen any significant movement in prices. As last week we saw a couple of commodities that increased. We saw that tomato prices increased. We saw that rice increased, although this week it reduced back because of the borders reopened. And but looking at even the prices that are there, they are relatively high. Even though they are stable, they are relatively high compared to what it was a month ago. So what we're saying is, yes, they're stable this week. We're not sure what's going to happen next week, coupled with the fact that we're seeing crop diseases rearing its ugly head again, because at this time last year, we also had the tomato Ebola issue, and then this year again, we're having issues with respect to tomatoes. So next week, we could probably see prices ticking up again, but for this week, they've remained relatively flat.
Now, talking about these crop diseases, Tuta absoluta.
Yeah.
That's the botanical name, I guess.
Yeah,
that's what it's called. Now, is it that the government has really not found a solution to it, or finding it difficult to tackle this particular problem?
Yeah, it appears it's a recurrent problem. It's something that happens typically annually, and it's not a new disease. We've seen it, moving from South America to Europe to Africa. We've seen a couple of African countries to combating Tuta absoluta. But it appears the government and farmers as well have not been able to find a way to curb this the disease. Typically, what they usually advise is to put, you have some pests, and then you have some permits me to use predators. So there's some certain predators that would this pest to be afraid of, because they obviously have them for a dinner or lunch or breakfast or whatever you would like to call it. But it appears, the government as well as the farmers have not been able to find a way to completely eliminate this problem. Obviously, it's not something that would happen within the next year or two. I think it took Ethiopia about 7 years to be able to eradicate the problem of Tuta absoluta. So I'm hoping that obviously the government and farmers are noticing these trends, and by next year we should see that it shouldn't be as severe as Tuta absoluta last year was really bad. We saw tomato prices increasing to about 40,000 naira for a basket. As of today, we're still selling at 14,000, and we're hoping it doesn't go back to what it was last year. But as at this time last year, it was really bad. So we're hoping that next year, based on what is happening, they're improving, they're finding newer methods to manage the problem, so it's not severe as it was.
So what's the role of the Agric Research Institutes towards solving this problem?
So The Agri Research Institute, like you mentioned, is a research institution, so it's all about research and development. You're supposed to find, typically maybe some form of, I wouldn't use the word fertilizer, but some form of spray or insecticide that would kill this pest, but at the same time not damage the crop or cause the crop to be not edible for the average human being. So although they are looking more towards the scientific solution to this problem, something that would be more rapid, because this pest they multiply at an exponential rate. A typical female moth can give birth to about 250 to 300 eggs during her lifetime. So they have to find a way to ensure that the method that they are implementing is as effective in eliminating this problem rapidly before they spread to other states in Nigeria.
And what will be the implication of this for May inflation?
For May inflation, I mean, the month hasn't come to an end yet, so we can't typically tell you what the figures will be. But so far, so good. What we're saying is that food inflation has maintained an upward trend, and we know food in the food baskets takes a significant weight in the consumer price index, and that's why we saw that the inflation numbers dipped slightly, because you're seeing food inflation increasing while other other baskets or consumer good baskets are declining. So I can't obviously give you a figure now, because we haven't come to month end yet, but it appears food inflation is probably still going to be a problem in the coming months, coupled with the fact that we're talking about crop diseases, and it's not even only tomato. Farmers are already talking about the problem with armyworms, which affects maize, that's corn. So we could probably see corn prices increase in a couple of months. Another factor to consider is Ramadan season that is coming into play in June. So there's typically a demand pull effect whenever we have Ramadan. So I mean, for food prices, it's not looking too good in the in the coming months.
Well, we hope for the best.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Obeyemi, for your time. Yeah. Obeyemi Ogunta, the Senior Investment Analyst with Financial Derivatives Company. Thank you for your time.